I am Dave Henning with the Fresh Start Podcast, fresh ideas for business and personal growth. And my guest today is none other than Mr. Dan Portik. Dan, the last time you were with us was 2020, and you've had a lot of things going on since then,
That's right.
including your 15,000 LinkedIn followers. Who
Yeah,
keeps
that's a
up with
lot.
that stuff? Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. So
Right.
thank you for being with me. So yeah, so what have you been up to these days? Obviously, it's been a few years.
Oh, yeah. By the way, that podcast was the first podcast I was ever on. Believe it or
Wow,
not, 3 years
wow.
ago. I know, it was so strange. It was so strange. Well, gosh, since we talked last, I have had a run working with a gentleman named Tom Hopkins, and we've done a lot of work together. In addition to my business, a video production company, I was able to write a best-selling book with him, and then after that, we ended up doing his documentary, his life story documentary as well. So
Wow.
got a good education out of that at the time.
So how was it working with Tom? I mean, that's really interesting.
Oh, it was great. The first time we went out and actually saw him in Scottsdale was after the book was done. The whole book was done remotely, and when it started doing well, I called him up and I talked through his people basically,
Sure.
and I said, I'd like to do a documentary on Tom because he was, said he was going to be reaching retirement and wanted to kind of do that. And I said, I think that people need to know what he was about, and we'd like to do that. So she says he's very shy. He wasn't sure whether he wanted to do it or not. You'd never expect that from him.
Yeah.
He's such an outgoing guy. He's very humble, but his wife talked him into it. So that was really cool. And I know he's between his assistant and his wife, they talked him into it, which was great. Her name is Michelle. And we went out there to Scottsdale the first time meeting him. I was very nervous,
Oh,
because
of
this
course.
is my mentor, So I remember being in the hotel room. I was like almost shaking, and finally, but he was such a nice guy. We pulled into his driveway and he came out and he was just a great guy, really nice, professional. He's just the way he is on stage as he is in person, which I thought was fantastic. So that was cool. That's how it started. And we filmed him that full day and came back, started working on the documentary, and needed to go back out again. So we took a trip back out to Scottsdale and shot for another day out with him, and just a wonderful man. His family and him, just wonderful.
I think I might have told you, I'm repeating myself, perhaps, but first time I knew about Tom Hopkins was he had made his mark as a real estate agent in California,
Yep.
and he had actually sold one house every day for 365 days. And I got to see him at one of these big Zig Ziglar arena events where he was the guest speaker, and I actually have it around here somewhere.
Yeah.
The he handed out this shower hanger thing that you're supposed to read it while you're taking your shower. I will win. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I have faith, courage, and enthusiasm. That one.
Yep.
Where
Yep.
I never take advice from anyone more messed up than I am.
That's
So,
right.
but the big thing I remember about him was he had this whole thing. His key strategy was sending handwritten thank you notes to everybody, and I never
Everywhere.
forgot that. Had a profound impact on the. I actually wrote an e-zine article blog on that subject years and years
Mhm.
ago. How the power of saying thank you, and he really made an impression upon me. But like you say, from that moment on, he was on an airplane going somewhere and speaking at some event.
That's exactly right. And the documentary is cool because it takes him right from the very beginning and it talks all about it. He narrates the entire thing. And
Really?
yeah, it's really fantastic. We learned so much, and it's interspersed with so many luminaries that have given their testament to him, saying that they could have not made it where they were without his training. And these
Who
are
were
people.
some Who were some of the interesting people that showed up for him?
Yeah, so Sharon Lechter, she was the co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and she's many books she's written. A New York best-selling author. We interviewed her while we were out there. Very nice lady, and so that's one. Russ Gray is a real estate mogul. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he did his thing, and many others in there that are just unbelievable. It's just really unbelievable how many people that were in there doing that.
About how long is the documentary?
It's 1 hour long. Yeah. So it's a full length
Cool.
movie.
So, what does somebody do to see the documentary?
Well, you can go to tomhopkinsdoc.com, and everything's up there. The whole story about it and what he's done and how he's done it. And then a little trailer. There's several trailers. And it's also on YouTube. You can go there and look at all the different things on YouTube, just by typing in Tom Hopkins doc as well.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll be doing that this evening. I would love to see how you put that all together. Now, you've been with the production company, bvcfilmproductions.com for forever. And tell me,
BBS actually.
oh, I was thinking of a pharmacy, apparently.
Oh, all good.
Yeah, tell me more about that, because you've really done extremely well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we've been doing that for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had an ad agency for 20 years, and we kind of reinvented ourselves in 2009, somewhere in there, and became more of a video production, video marketing group. It's been good. It's been good. We work a lot with small to medium size, and actually some very large companies that use us for parts of their videos.
Yeah.
And then just this past 2 years, we started a podcast production company as well. It's kind of a branch off. Yeah. So that's been the niches.
Is it for your own podcast, or you help people develop their own podcast?
We help them develop it. There's only about 20% of the podcasts out there are video, believe it or not.
Really?
And yeah, the majority of them are still audio podcasts. So there's a chance or an ability to level up more by adding video to your podcast, and that's something that we've kind of specialized in.
So are you open to bringing on a few clients?
I'd say so. Yeah, absolutely. We're always open to getting more clients. But it's we're looking for the right type of client. Someone that a lot of times we're kind of looking at businesses now, because I think there's the individuals are kind of saturated, a lot of the individual podcasts, but I see the next thing being, all our research is showing, that businesses that's going to be the way of the future for businesses. Because in this give, ask strategy, podcasts are really, an easy way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like everybody and their uncle and brother and cousin have some kind of a podcast going on, and but the key is, are you providing value?
Right,
And
exactly right.
And of course, I was in advertising for a long time, and as you know, I work with a lot of local businesses, and a lot of people, what's an advertising budget? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, all that to say, you've got to pick and choose. Who can I help the most, I guess, is
right. And who could benefit the most from?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Who could benefit the most from what we have to offer, or anyone has to offer, in that matter? Yeah.
So,
and
go ahead.
The other thing is, I've found that there are two types of podcasters. There's the ones that are down here and they're just kind of doing it out of their house, and then there's ones way up here, and it's just, there's no in between. It's really funny. There's it's either, there's no budget to do anything, we're just kind of doing this on the side, or there are these guys spending $100,000 a month on just advertising and production of these things. Pretty amazing. So there's room to grow with a lot of people.
Yeah, that brings up another question, and that is, you take the Frank Kern kind of a guy who's more of the laid back, down to earth, maybe not as high tech as he could be at kind of the thing. And what's your opinion on that middle ground where it doesn't have to be, shiny object kind of a super, super high TV, Super Bowl quality
Right. Right.
commercials? What are your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, the way I look at this is, everybody got into the podcast from what we can see, everybody got into podcasting to get a big following. They all want millions of people because they think
Yeah.
that's the only way they're going to be able to monetize their podcast. But in reality, for businesses especially, you're looking for the right customer. We're finding out that our goal is to bring a podcast to life and then get those right customers in there that they can use to, get business from. So they may not need a million, they may need 10, that are really
Yes,
good. The other thing
exactly.
is, yeah, one other thing is the customer, our customers, for example, ask their customers and prospects to come onto their shows. So it gets them in the many times we've done that, and it gets people into understanding what the podcast. Oh, I get it. Oh, this is cool. So a lot of unique things that can be done there.
Well, looking back to when that was your first podcast with me.
Mhm.
I think I was one of the first 100 people on the podcast software that was made by the gentleman over in Manchester, England, and I actually interviewed him about
Oh,
it
really?
because I always wanted to have my own radio station. So I
Yeah.
jumped on his radio software, built this
Mhm.
automated radio station, and plugged in my own favorite tunes. So I'm the only one listening to it
Yeah.
in the entire world. But then he
Mhm.
said, "Oh, I've got this podcast software. We want to beta test it." And then the matchmaker software that he has, he owes me for giving him this plug, by the way. And that's how we connected. But the point being, I think I was one of the first 100, and from there now I look at his stats. I think it went from 100 to like 150,000 subscribers or something massive.
It's
People jump
yeah.
on board, and I want to be on camera. I don't have
Yeah,
anything to say, but I'm going to.
exactly right. And some are very successful at it. They just happen to get the right niche and they just
Yeah,
start talking and they just resonate with people. The majority
yeah,
they see the majority of them never make it past the first 10. You're in the 99 percentile if you make it past 10 podcasts and stick with it,
yeah, yeah.
which
Oh
is
yeah.
crazy.
Exactly. Well, I have kind of the advantage of having been on air radio and then taking myself off to go on the sales side because I needed more money way back when.
Yeah.
And because I could write and produce stuff, and I was able to carry that skill around to
Mhm.
2020s, and here we are. So,
Right. Right.
um, and the book that you co-wrote, "Fill Your Funnel: Selling with Social Media," co-authored with Tom Hopkins. Tell us about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, so the book we wrote is basically taking how it all started was I was trained by Tom through his his teachings and books and tapes and everything, and I learned all his closes and I was able to build a pretty good business from that. But as time went on, everything started going online. So we weren't like going in front of people anymore doing closes. We were doing like we're doing or emails.
Yeah,
So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use the same techniques in electronic format and let's see what happens. Well, lo and behold, it worked. I would send a close in an email and wait, and the next person that talks, right? So I'd wait. Sometimes it was a day later, I would get an email back. Yeah, we're ready to go on the project. So I was doing that, and I said, you know what? I think this could be a really good book for people to know Tom's closes and how it could be done and used online. So that's really what the book's all about. And when I pitched him on it, he put me through to his people again, and they kind of said, "Well, we'll get back to you after we look at this." So they ran it by a couple of publishers, and they said, "We're on board. Let's do it. The minute it's written, we'll publish it." So yeah, so it was really cool. I mean, he had such a great track record. I think he's got 25 books out, and many of them are bestsellers. So I got in a really good spot. I was very lucky to do that. Honor and a privilege to work with the gentleman. Um, but the whole thing took about 8 or 9 months, and they started with like, just give us a brain dump. I'm like, I never wrote a book before. He said, don't worry about it. Just start typing. We'll help you through the whole process, which was fantastic. So they put one of the vice presidents over there ended up being the ghostwriter for this and helped take all my ideas and turn it into a manageable, palatable thing.
Right.
And so we went back and forth a couple times, and Tom kept putting his points in there and talking about different things. And then we ended up getting it published, and probably with a couple of good promotions, we were a bestseller. It was a bestseller within I think the first month or two, which was really nice. So it opened up a lot of doors for me as well, and I ended up finally getting 5 books. I'm at number 5 now, so I just kept going. I got the bug,
Oh yeah. In fact, I have a little button right here I need to press. This is a new book, right? How to Beat Inflation with the Secret Online Door. Whoa, that sounds
Right.
mysterious. What is it?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of how I reached Tom was negotiating techniques and things of this nature online that I've created to be able to get to people that you can't normally get to. Most of this book, it originally was a secret online door, but since inflation has been so bad, I added that other part in there. But basically most of the book is on how to save money by going online and reaching the right people with things. You can do things in person too. There's one technique I'll just mention. It's called the flinch technique, and I have saved thousands of dollars in a matter of seconds by using this one technique. And it's pretty simple. It's basically, if someone tells you a price on something, you just go, that's it. That's it. I've gotten 50% off a set of tires by just doing that thing, because the other person they stand back a little bit, and most of them aren't good negotiators. They don't know what you're doing. So they'll go on their computer. Oh, you know what? I can get you an extra amount off on that. Just by that one technique, it just opens up all doors. So the book is full of all these different ideas about negotiating and how you can save money on anything. The other part of the book is about how you can reach anybody online through what I call these secret doors, but it's really a meta. I don't know. It's a proverbial door. It's you have to have your profile right. If you're going to deal with somebody, your profile has to look like you are someone that is willing, that someone will work with you. If your LinkedIn profile shows you drinking a beer with a T-shirt on, it's going to be hard to reach the vice president of Ford, let's say, right?
Maybe the vice president of Coors.
Exactly. Right. So there are ways around that. Yes, you're right. But for the most part, even then, you're probably going to want someone. It's funny how that works. So,
Well, I'm also a big fan of Dan Kennedy, and it was Dan Kennedy, yeah. Well, he would be like the last presenter at the big Zig Ziglar event with all these real estate people and
yeah,
sales people, and it would whittle down to the very end, and he
yeah,
had like a very small amount of people that stayed, but then he
yeah,
told how these stories about how he would mail a canoe oar to a CEO, and
yeah.
because the guy wouldn't answer his calls, and he says, "Hey, you're going to be up the paddle without up the creek without a paddle if you don't call me back." You do these
Right.
bizarre, and then he charged like $25,000 for one sales letter. But the fact is, his stuff was crazy worked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and so I hear what you're saying about the flinch thing. I always got into the habit, and it didn't always go over real big sometimes, but I would say, "Is that the best you can do?" And then I just shut up.
Exactly. And it's just like closing, because after you say your close, you have to be quiet. Because if you say anything, it's
Yeah,
not like you're too, I don't know,
yeah,
you're just too much and it doesn't work.
yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
an equation you have to follow.
So can people, is this on Amazon? People can get this book, or where's
Yeah.
the best place to yeah,
It's Amazon. If you just go and type in my name, all my books pop up on there, and you'll be able to see
yep,
them. It's a unique name, so you won't Portik. There's not many other ones out there. So
right, right. So you were going to do some special today that you wanted to about
Right.
the book, or what was that about?
Mhm. Yeah. So anybody that reaches out to me and asks for the book this week, well, this coming week, we'll do it through Friday of next week. I'll send them a copy for free, either an audio version or a digital version.
Oh,
So,
awesome!
yeah, we
And
really
that's
want to get this in front of a lot of people that, could use it.
fantastic. I might have to apply for that myself,
You're on the
especially.
list. You'll get one for free.
Shucks! Thank you so
You'll get one.
much.
Well, you asked for it. You're gonna get it now. Very good.
um, so here's you might have seen these. I might have used these on you 3 years ago. So what are you not good at?
Oh gosh. Personally, I have trouble with organization. I would say
Oh,
I use a lot of tools like phones and things to keep me organized, but that's one big thing I would say.
what keeps you up at night?
Oh gosh. Um Probably my business, I got to keep track of it, keep track of everything, make sure all the balls they were in the air,
Yeah.
and the different things I'm doing. Yeah.
Now you do have a team that you work with, is that right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah. But I always
Yeah.
take it everything's personal, as an owner.
Of course. You're the owner, man.
Right. You feel it.
Yeah. So if you could turn back the timer and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
Wow. Where do I begin? Lose the lose the blue hair. That'd probably be the first thing. No, it's hard. 18, gosh. Phew.
That's when you
How do
know
we keep this
everything. That's when
PG?
you
I was gonna say, how
what?
do we keep this a PG-13?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, when you're a teenager, you know everything, right?
You know everything. You're invincible.
Yeah.
Yeah, dodged a lot of bullets. I could have avoided, I think. So,
Here's my favorite question that I like to ask everybody because it's different, and I've gotten some really cool answers from people. If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
well, I think number one would be Elon Musk because he's just a brilliant individual, and he's so outside the box. It's not even funny. It's like they just beamed him into another planet. So he's one for sure. In time, I'd probably want to look at maybe John F. Kennedy would be a really
Yeah,
interesting one.
yeah,
Um, and oh gosh, I can't even think of a third one. Zig Ziglar. I think he would be a great one to
yeah,
do. You know,
yeah.
so just
Well,
because,
yeah, way back when I got took myself off the air as the disc jockey in the sales team, that was one of the first things my general manager did was he took us to a Zig Ziglar event. This is like holy cow, what? Well,
yeah,
let's just say decades ago.
right,
And from there, I would get on the mail list where you could get as many tickets as you want comped, and I'd gather everybody that was on any of my sales teams or other. Let's load up a couple cars and get down there and yeah, it was just worth it. It was very well worth it.
yeah,
Um, so
oh
let's
yeah,
see what other quirky question that I that I can ask you. I actually, speaking of Elon Musk, I was sitting with friends and family at a restaurant up in this would have been up in Palo Alto,
hmm
not far from Stanford, and there was like this bright light, like what in the world is going on? And is something going on? Is it an earthquake? What? And people were like commenting about it. And we found out later that Elon Musk was at the Air Force Base, like 5 hours south of there. He had just
wow,
launched a rocket, and then he was able to land it backwards on the beach. Holy cow!
that's unbelievable. He's doing things that blew me away. There's a thing I just came out recently. I don't know if I mentioned this, but or if you've even seen it, but his Cybertruck that they're launching now, it raced a Porsche 911. Okay. And he's like, all right, we're going to show you this. We just bought this off the showroom and we're going to race, against this Porsche 911. And I'm going to show you we can beat it. So they're showing the front of the truck, the front of the Porsche, and these things take off, and the truck just slowly just takes out way past the Porsche, going full speed, and they go to the finish line, slow motion, and he says, wait for it. And he says, it had a trailer on the back of it pulling another Porsche. And isn't that unbelievable? Talk about over the top. That thing was so powerful. It was faster than a Porsche pulling a Porsche. That's crazy,
But I hadn't heard of this. This was a truck.
Yeah, his Cybertruck is like this new Cybertruck. It's like it's a pickup truck. It's the craziest looking thing. It's like from outer space. And we ordered one about 5 years ago. You put $100 down just to, and then in hopes that it happens. And now they're coming to fruition. And it's all electric pickup truck, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
But it doesn't look like a truck. It looks like a spaceship, basically. So
yeah, exactly.
So, but that's him. He's a genius.
Let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
And it is this: what should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Oh gosh, that is a good question. What have you not asked me that? Well, you covered a lot. I guess what I'd want to tell people, is especially people new in business, um, there should be no fear in trying things. You have nothing to lose, especially millennials and younger. Everything seems like it could be like, oh, I make this one decision, I could fail, but looking back on my career, I look at it and go, so what? I'm glad I made those decisions. I'm glad I took a chance. I would have never got where I am now if I didn't take chances. So,
Yeah.
You have to do that. And, I've had bad times. There's points where you go down, you're at the bottom. And guess what? All you're going to do is go back up.
Right.
It's just the way it is. So that's my last point, I guess I would make to people.
Well, tell me how your faith has impacted your life and business.
Yeah, so I'm a Christian. I've been a Christian forever, so I was a young man, and I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I think it really helps to have a higher power that you can count on, because they're there for you no matter what. And I have so many times where I've literally cried because how could this have happened? How could this have happened? Great thing, something very good that have happened from such from a tragedy, and it's just like that from prayer, at least I attribute it to prayer. And if you believe it, it works.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of the ancient book, and the Bible is still the bestseller in the entire world, and it's not one book; it's an anthology of 66 different books with all these different authors,
Right?
And it's an amazing document, and it's the acronym is BIBLE, Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth. The Bible.
That's so true. You think about it. Let's say a tank pulls up in front of your house and somebody says, here's the manual for the tank. There's no other manuals. Okay. That's the only manual we know for the most part that's complete, on how to live your life and how to do things. So, how do you say that there's nothing out there? It's hard for me to understand that, but
right. Oh, there's so many deep truths and comfort, security. There's something about it's the only book that I know that actually talks back to me. I mean, I hear the voice of God. He does actually talk to me. I'll tell you a quick story in relation to that. I was just sharing this morning at my men's discipleship group, and we were talking about the book of Esther and how she and her uncle Mordecai, how they saved an entire generation of people. And my last note on my little flyer was Michael W. Smith, the singer. You know Michael? W.
Mhm.
Smith, the singer, and it was this Mordecai in the book of Esther says, "For such a time as this, you were here for such a time as this, Esther." And I was reading or heard the story from Michael W. Smith himself, who he was talking about. You remember 911, where you were for 911?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
we all do, right? So Michael is working in the studio. He's wanting to write some more pop songs and stuff. And late at night in his sleep, he hears, "For such a time as this." And then, okay, what's that? What does that mean? Forget about it. I'm writing these other songs. 4 times in a row over about a month's time, he heard, "For such a time as this." And the last time he heard it, not out loud, but in his head, Michael, like, "For such a time as this." And so he realized, I'm going to write this worship album, which he had never done before, ever. And it was
Mhm.
like a year ahead of time. And he recorded it at a big church down in Florida live. And
Wow.
it was so powerful. And as it turned out, it was released on 911.
Wow. Wow. What are the odds of that?
God knew, at least, obviously, more than a year ahead of time.
Mhm.
He knew that
Yeah.
the country and the world would need this. And that, it was weird because I saw somebody says, "Well, what, the critics said, they said blah 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 blah." Well, have you listened to it before
Yeah.
how the critics come out of the woodwork? So
Yeah.
isn't that amazing, though?
It
For
is.
such
It is. And
for
you
such
see
a
that.
time as this.
You
Mm,
see that all the time, with different things, you have to look for it though, and
yeah,
many times you have to look for it. You can't
yeah,
just like go through life and not, you gotta look
yeah.
for things. They're there.
Exactly. Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you today, my friend, and
Well,
we
thank
will
you.
encourage people to go ahead and get that inflation book. This is not about blowing up your bicycle tires.
Right. Yeah. So what they can do is go to info at danportik, DANPORTIK.com, and just put in the subject line free book. And if they do that, then we'll send the book out to them. No problem. Free of charge.
I'm writing it up now. Watch this. I'm so handy.
You're more organized than me.
Okay, did I spell it right?
You did. Perfect. Perfect.
Well, hang on there, my friend, and because we're gonna check out with this little closing thing here, and we'll be muted for a second here. But thank you so much again. I appreciate you being here. It was
Awesome.
fantastic.
Great. Thanks for having me.